All right, tying pike bunnies. This is such an easy pattern and it works so well. Um, if you're like me and you're not spending tons and tons of time at the vise, I'm traveling a lot, I'm fishing hard. I like flies that are quick and catch fish. This is one of the best, easiest, cheapest flies that you can tie. Beginner friendly. Works for pike, works for bass, works for all kinds of stuff. You could sit down and tie 100 of them and be good for life. Honestly, they're awesome. I caught a ton of pike on these this last year, fishing shallow weed beds. They cut through the weed beds real nice. Yeah, and that's it. And I do it on the cheap. I'm actually using just bait hooks off the shelf. Sportsman's Warehouse. You can use these octopus hooks. They're all good. I had great hookups actually. I did not miss really hardly any fish this year. So yeah, they work. I was kind of curious switching to just cheap bait hooks off the shelf, and they're great. So let's get started. And you can do any number of colors. I'm gonna do one in chartreuse. It's black barred. You know, chartreuse is always good. Start your thread. And then I'm just gonna cut off a piece for the tail. And before I do that, I'm gonna you can tie the tail straight in. If you're doing that, you want to put a good kind of ball of thread right here at your bend to hold it up, and then put a couple wraps under it. What I like to do so it doesn't get hung up is I like to take some fluoro or mono, just line. This is 20 pound, and I'll use that. I'll put a loop on the end to hold this up. And that fluoro was in my saltwater stuff. It got exposed to a lot of sand and salt last winter, so I'll just retire it and use it for stuff like this. So I'm just going to pinch this to make a loop, and I'll secure that. And that's where your rabbit strip is going to sit, right on top of that. And that'll just keep it from hanging up. So I'll do a couple wraps here, and then I'll decide how long. You don't have to go too long on this, just kind of past the bend of the hook is fine. And then I'll lock that down. Now back to that tail piece. I'm pretty flexible on the length of the tail. I'll do some short, some longer. This one's a little on the long side. I don't mind leaving them long, and if it feels a little too long, I can just trim it when I'm fishing. So, easy. And then I'm going to do the same color Sometimes I'll alternate colors, black and purple, black and red, however you want to do it. For this one, since it's black barred, kind of like it just chartreuse all the way through. Make sure that's good and locked in. And if you want to, you can put a little super glue on there right now, just to give it a little more durability and to help lock that rabbit strip down. But this thing's pretty sturdy. Like I've never had a problem with them slipping off the hook. By that point, it's probably caught enough fish that it's time to retire it and move on anyways. It's such a cheap and easy tie that I'll have 20 of these in my box and not really concerned with running out. So right here, you could keep going down the shank if you want. Wrap it to the point wherever you like. I like to have kind of a long head on this. So that's it right here. I'm just going to build the head up. If you wanted to make it real attractive, you could put some resin on this head. You could put eyes on it. You can do all kinds of stuff. But I keep it simple. I know this is going to catch fish. I'm going to fish it hard, destroy it, and tie on another. And that's it. I'll glue that head down. And that's one of the easiest, most effective flies that you can tie. It's great in shallows. I'll put it on a sinking line and fish it down deep too. I think when I go deeper, I tend to size up more. But when you get pike in shallows and they're kind of tricky and there's a lot of weeds and stuff to work through, or you're just working through little pockets in the weeds, this thing will sink really slow and it'll just kind of suspend, and you barely have to put any movement on it. So if you're fishing a small area and you don't need to cover a ton of ground, you can just give it one strip and it's going to undulate, and then it's just going to kind of stop, but it'll keep moving, which is one of the reasons I think it's really effective. That's it. Tie them up, go catch a fish.